Good evening. Let's try this again. Good evening, board members. We're here tonight because the city is applying for some financial assistance to help make some improvements to Waterfront Park through the Florida Recreational Development Assistance Program. Some of you may remember that we went through this process last year to get some money to help improve Waterfront Park. We were awarded two $50,000 grants, and we recently had the state come and present this check for $100,000 for the park. We are eligible for one more grant for $50,000. And part of the grant requirement is that we have either a recreation committee meeting or a planning and zoning board meeting to discuss the things that the city is applying for. One of the things that makes this type of grant unique is you can't just take the total amount of money and apply it to one large project or one large construction element. You have to meet the scoring criteria that the state develops by allocating the money through different components of the park. So some of the grant money has to go for passive recreation, some has to go for active recreation, some has to go for renovation, some has to go for new construction. So in working with our grant writer, Mr. Fred Fox, we developed some components that we wanted to work on in the park that would meet the requirements of the FERDAP grant program. So if you look at page 12 of your agenda packet, that is the budget detail of what we propose for this grant application cycle. It should look like this.
Oh, on page 12, I have the map of Florida.
Yeah, that's the grant number.
Turn
This
back
is
to
the-
page 7.
There's two sets of page numbers.
Oh,
You can look at that set of numbers, go to page 7.
It should say 7 of 28. There's two set of numbers going there, sorry.
okay, that's fine.
So what we have proposed, sorry about that. What we have proposed is to make some renovations to the existing playground structure for $2,500. We have some renovations to the picnic facility, pavilion, that's $5,000. Renovations to the current nature trail for $2,500. $10,000 for new playground equipment. $18,000 for a new fishing pier, $5,000 to improve other portions of the nature trail, $5,000 for putting a fence around the park, adding additional signage, and then $2,000 for new water fountains and new bike racks. And those things are somewhat different than what we applied for last year, and also helped us to achieve the points that we needed to be able to get the application hopefully approved. So feel free to ask any questions, make any suggestions that you have.
Yes, the 100,000 we've raised so far, you just said that it was applied with different objects or things.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way we can put the two together and actually accomplish something?
That's the challenge of this particular grant source. You can't just take a chunk of the money and apply it to one thing. So you
No,
couldn't.
but if you have playground renovation in this package, did we have playground renovation in the last package?
Some components, and I have the budget from the previous grants
So
here.
can we then put those two budgets together and actually start spending some of this toward the benefit?
Sure, just in different fiscal years. Because each year you have a contract. So this one that we're applying for now is for the next grant cycle. Well, this money that we already have is for the current grant cycle. So you have to do it in phases is what I'm saying.
Do we have to spend the 100,000 before we get to this 50?
I think this 50,000 is separate because you'll be operating under different contracts. Because they're only $50,000 grants, so you'll have a contract with the state for each one.
Okay, I'm just looking forward to when we can actually do some improvements.
Well, we are as well, and they're, at the state, they're very overwhelmed, we're hearing, and we haven't gotten our contracts for the last year, so we can't move forward until we get the go-ahead from them to start moving forward.
One last question on the fishing pier of 18,000. We all know that's just a drop in the bucket toward a fishing pier.
Right,
That's for the next grant cycle.
right.
So we've got, what, a year and a half to save up the rest of the money to actually do that? Because we can't just throw $18,000 at a park bench and call that a fishing pier.
No, of course not.
So what portion of the money does that 18,000 make up? Is it a percentage?
It could be. We haven't decided, the council hasn't made any decisions about moving forward with building a new fishing pier. If they did, they might not want to or be able to fund the same type of fishing pier that they have in the past. So none of those decisions have been made as of yet.
But the money sits there until the fishing pier is built? Or it sits there
That's
for a
my
year?
that's my understanding of how the funding works.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how the grants process.
It's tricky because you can't just take one pot of money and do one thing with it. You know, the way that they
No,
have
but
it
can you
structured.
do anything with it?
You can do small things with it, and that's what they're intended to be.
Okay.
I thought that they were gonna eliminate the fishing pier.
It's gone. It's actually not there any longer, but
Oh, but I
they,
mean, I thought they weren't gonna build another one.
well, we've heard conversations that there might be plans to build another fishing pier.
Okay.
But nothing has been formally decided. And it might be, like I said, different than the fishing pier that was there before. I don't know.
And that's a requirement for this grant?
It's not a requirement, but that's something among staff, when we talked about this grant program, that was something that came up as a suggestion to apply for grant money.
Okay.
Jocelyn, if I may, I don't see anything with the different tasks, 6 different things, anything about the renovation of the restrooms?
We did apply for that in the last funding cycle. So we had allocated, let's see, $24,000 to renovate the existing restroom structure previously with this same grant program. So we do have some money allocated for that.
$24,000?
Right, and that, again, that's not going to cover, that's not even gonna scratch the surface of what it will take.
I mean, that whole building is just so,
It definitely needs some touching up.
it needs a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying
Being
to be nice.
kind, being kind, being kind.
Right.
So where would that come from? Can we use any of the money where it says picnic facility, playground? Can any of that money be used for the restrooms themselves because they're all in the same area?
We had intended to use that for the pavilion structure. And that, because that's considered picnic area because there's some picnic tables there.
Okay.
You've already got the money for the restroom set aside.
Right, it's confusing because we're actually talking about 3 separate grants here. In one of the grants, we have $24,000 set aside for renovations to the existing restroom facilities.
And would that, when it's ready for renovation, would that go out to bid?
Absolutely, depending on the cost, which I'm pretty sure is gonna be more than $25,000.
Uh-huh.
It would probably have to.
And it could be relocated?
That's a possibility. Do you remember the master plan that we had
Mhm.
designed several years ago? In the master plan, there's actually, it's designed to be renovated and moved to another
Right.
portion of the park. Because that's one of the main things you see when you drive into the park, and that might not be what you want your focal
No,
point to be.
of course not. I think way back, wasn't it looking at the park, looking at the restrooms? Wasn't it supposed to be off to the left,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken?
There was gonna be like a welcome plaza, welcome kiosk type structure where the bathrooms are currently located. You know, so you could, there would be signage there and educational information, so you could see what animals were in the park, or maybe the history of the park, and
Right.
maybe a little bit of what the amenities of the park are.
Hmm.
And that's typical of most public parks, you see some kind of informational signage about what is in the park.
Well, isn't that just almost like a big bulletin board with different things posted on it?
It can be. I think this one was a little more elaborate, drinking fountains and things like that, seating areas.
Because it's such a beautiful piece of property.
Oh, it
And
is.
to not have it look where people come into the park and you see the water, I mean, that's what Portagee's all about,
Oh,
is the
right.
water. I would certainly like to see some cleaning up and redesign,
Yeah.
possibly.
I think the city manager has big plans for making improvements to Waterfront
has?
Park. The city manager.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen his dog park that he put up?
I haven't.
It's right next to City Hall.
Oh,
It's
okay.
in the process. He put up some short fences for the dogs to run around in, and then he put a gazebo there, and he's gonna fence in the
Oh.
whole area. So I think parks are one of his main priorities.
That's great. That's good. Well, he's a shaker and a doer, so.
Oh, yeah.
So what would you like who are we, a committee? What would you like us to do tonight?
Just maybe, we're gonna present a resolution to council at the next council meeting. If there's any suggestions you have, any recommendations you have, we'd love to hear them. Questions? I know it's confusing.
Just wave a magic wand and let's get it done.
Do we have a timetable anywhere of actually doing something in the park? We hear a lot of talk about doing things, but never really seems to appear a timetable.
As I said, with the grant funding that we have now, we are waiting from contracts from the state to give us a time frame of, how long we have to work with the money that we have, which is $100,000.
And that's the first source of funds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been like a year and a half getting that in here.
It's been a while.
Okay.
It takes a while from the time you submit your application to actually getting the point where you can start moving forward.
But if I'm right, that money must be used in that park.
Yes.
It can't be used in another park for the same activity.
Right. No, it has to be used in that location.
I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think this is already in the plans, but some area for dog walking is always appreciated, I think.
Yes, we did apply with the FCT for a dog park in Waterfront Park, and we were met with some resistance due to the restrictions that are on that land. So I think what Mr. Lupo was thinking is it will be more of an area where people can walk their dogs around, and that's why I think he wanted to put some money toward improving the nature trails and the walking trails, so people can do that, because it's kind of haphazard now. Part of it's sand, part of it's gravel, part of it's grass. So maybe making a more defined walkway with something that's, a little easier for people to walk on would be something that we'd hope to do with the money that we get from this grant if we're approved.
When we get this off the ground, so to speak, it will go out to bid, and will it go to companies that have the experience of redesigning a park? I know there's a lot of contractors, and somebody can put up the restrooms and somebody can do that, but I'd like a vision,
Right.
and I would like it to reflect the beauty of it, because right now it's nothing. It's just a big park with nothing.
Right.
There's nothing exciting, absolutely nothing.
Right.
So, I mean, that's down the road, I know, but it's time that we have something to give to the people, because, I mean, this is their city, and we need to make that park at least enjoyable for families.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's the largest park. It's one of the prettiest parks. I think they're all pretty in their own way. But it's also right next to the Waterfront Overlay District.
It's
so
next to?
the Waterfront Overlay District.
Uh-huh,
So
yes,
it's
of
in
course.
a prime location for where we have a lot of development happening now.
Mhm.
So there's an incentive to make it more attractive for people to visit.
Right.
But we do have the master plan that we finished in 2013. So we do have an overall concept of some of the elements that could take place in the park and what the park could look like. So we might not get to all of those components, because you certainly don't want to take away the natural beauty of the park. You wouldn't
Oh,
want to
no.
overcrowd it with too many amenities. But we do kind of have already a plan that was created specifically for a waterfront park to help, I think, help it reach its true potential.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the park and you see so many things that could be done. It's just waiting, I think, for something to happen.
Well, it should be happening.
Yeah. We're trying, we are.
Yes, I'm sure.
So in any of these three different projects, do any of them include what Phyllis is talking about, a kind of like a welcome center or a information center, or?
We haven't applied for any of that in any of these grants yet, no.
Mhm.
But we certainly can, going forward.
I've seen a lot of places in real small towns or something, even by the boat ramp or something, they at least have pictures of fish in the area and
Right.
pictures of manatees or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and birds.
I always like, for me personally, when you go to parks and you see little informational signage about the history of the park, you know, what the
Mhm.
land was used for in the past. There's a park in Palm Harbor, Wall Springs Park.
Mhm.
It's right off of Alternate 19, and it used to be a resort area. They actually have
Right.
springs there, and people would come and use it for
Hmm.
health reasons. And you can see old postcards that they used to
Aw.
send out. And I kind of like that, you know, because you're somewhat connected to the history of the park, and you feel like this isn't just a patch of land. There's a
Right.
history here. I think that's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, how
Instead of
fast?
just a Pokemon, a rare Pokemon.
Oh.
Right, or just land that there's no connection to it, you know.
Yeah.
So I always think that that's nice.
Well, how fast would this get going?
Well, what we'll do is the application deadline for this particular grant is October 28th. So we'll get all our documents submitted. I think the last thing we have to do is get the resolution approved by City Council, which we'll do at the next council meeting on Tuesday. And then I imagine it would take some time for them to go through all the applications, because I'm sure many of the cities in Florida will also submit. So I couldn't identify a specific timeline, but it would be a while for this particular cycle of it. But we're hoping to get our contracts very soon for this pot of money that we'd
Mhm.
already been approved for.
Okay.
It was funny, one of the requirements of the grant is that you have to present to a local community group. So last year we presented to the Rotary Club. This year I presented to the Athenian Academy. It's a
Oh, yes,
school, it's
yeah,
a charter
yeah.
school that the city attorney is
Mhm.
affiliated with. So I presented to a 5th grade class
Oh.
about Waterfront Park and what kind of things that kids would like to see in the park. And one of them suggested a bathroom made of diamonds. But because diamonds are expensive, you have to charge to use the bathroom. A chandelier in the pavilion.
Of course. I
Um,
like that thinking.
a zip line.
I'm sorry?
A zip line, you know, with
Yeah.
you know what a zip line is, right?
Yeah.
Some of the kids said that they actually come to Waterfront Park. One kid told me that he brings his chihuahua named Chico, and he walks in the park. Another little girl said she had been fishing on the fishing pier, and she cast her line out, and she caught a crab, and she got so scared that she dropped her fishing pole.
Oh.
So, but it's just interesting to hear from, you know, what kids think is important. And
Sure.
one of the things I found really interesting is they wanted a wooden playground structure. They were very adamant about that. We want a playground made of wood.
Metal gets too hot for their hands.
I guess, I didn't think of it
And
that
some of the
way.
plastics get real hot.
But-
And then the wood gets splinters, and the wood also, they have like the formaldehyde or whatever
Uh-huh.
that it's preserved with they had to take it out of Sims Park for that reason.
Well, and that's what they said to me, that they were very upset
Yeah.
about the playground at Sims
I
Park
mean, maybe
because
if
they
you
really
did it
liked
with
it.
the new, what is it, resin or whatever, the wood.
Trex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like wood, but not real wood.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
be the same.
But I thought that was wildly specific, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
To
for
me.
young people to think of that.
Oh, they had
Yeah.
tons of ideas. They suggested water fountains that had the body of an animal, and then the water would come out of the mouth,
Yeah, sure.
They specifically said lion, like a lion or a seal or a dolphin. That was a cute idea.
That's
actually.
creative. Come
Yeah.
on. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So it was just interesting to see what kids would like to see
Yeah.
at the park.
Okay, do I hear a motion on the diamond bathroom?
I mean, where would a child come up with something like that? And that's not even something that you see.
Too much TV.
I
Yeah.
suppose.
Okay, no motion on there.
Somebody also said a bathroom made of gold.
The kids don't have a concept of money and liability.
I guess not, but they knew that it was expensive enough that you would have to charge for usage. So there was some understanding of the cost.
Oh,
That's good.
I thought it was cute though.
yeah.
And then one kid said he wanted a tetherball. Do you remember tetherball?
Oh, I got
No,
one
You have one in your yard?
in Georgia.
It's a pole
Pole
with
with
a
the-
string and a ball,
ball.
and you just
don't do
Well,
it. The
I was-
daycare center that my daughter went to, a girl got wrapped around her neck and died.
I
Right
was
down here in
Oh.
Holiday.
Oh.
on Main
that's
Street.
terrible.
I've heard it happen with other people too. They're taking them out everywhere.
Oh yeah,
That's
I was
another liability.
terrified. I
You know,
was-
we can't do anything anymore. It's a liability.
My grandsons love it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
isn't
was
that,
always too small.
isn't that how young kids learned how to bat a ball in the first place?
No, you actually hit it with your hand.
It's more like a
Oh, with your
It's
volleyball.
like
hand?
volleyball.
It's like a
Oh.
volleyball.
Touch
Volleyball activity.
volleyball.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm thinking of the little kids this big and the ball and then.
Well, that's T-ball.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
like
T-ball?
the
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Oh, welcome, sir. How are you?
Great.
I was telling them about the Athenian Academy. Ooh, sorry, Tammy.
I doubt if anybody has any questions, right?
What did you have for dinner? That sounds good.
I was sentencing the kids is what I was doing. I sentenced
So if there's no more questions
You have any suggestions?
or suggestions?
Just
Specific-
quickly,
Quickly,
quickly, please,
make a note of that.
in my lifetime.
The only suggestion I would have is that we actually publish a timeline
Mm-hmm.
so that we can look at this and say, this is when it was applied for, this is when we got it, and here's how we plan to spend it and when.
Okay.
Because a lot of this money gets approved, and we hear a lot of big ruckus over how much money we got here, there, and another place, but you never see the results.
Right.
And people get tired of their short memories. And so it's like, well, you're applying for another grant, why don't you do something with the last grant you got?
What I like too is sometimes, and I think you see these, a couple of these in Port Richey, there's signs that say paid for with whatever funding source.
Right.
You know, so you know that it's the result. I
Yeah,
think,
and then the stories go about that one little project that was part of a bigger project cost the entire project cost. And
right.
I love those stories. No, I just would like to see a timeline with an expectation of when we plan to spend the money and the activity we plan to support with that money.
Okay, that's easy to do.
Thank you.
And I would suggest that we do something where we talk about the historical aspects of the city, like maybe tell about the nature that's there, maybe mention the Indian Mounds, the Stilt Home,
Mm-hmm.
just different historical facts about Port Richey.
Mhm.
I think that's a good idea.
Any famous shipwrecks?
No.
We could make one up.
We do have a wreath out there, though. Let's get a wreath.
I don't think that's very old. That's old enough.
I'm good.
Okay, do you want us to make a motion to approve this proposal or recommend it?
Sure, you
Is
can
what
do
you want
that.
here? Okay, is there a motion to approve this budget proposal?
I make said motion, approve the budget proposal as it is.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a second. It's approved.
Aye.
Why don't you have a vote?
Yeah, say all in favor.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry. The motion has been, approved. You got to vote on it now, so do we have a for the motion?
I'm gonna vote for it.
You are?
Yay.
Yay.
And then I say yay, so that's 4 yays.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
Okay,
Out the door we go.
this meeting has been adjourned. Thank you very much.